Hello, welcome everybody to The Unstoppable Singer. I'm your host, Danielle Tucker. I am a singer, a vocal coach, and a lead singer with the Mighty Untouchables band. The Unstoppable Singer is a live interview style show where I follow the lives of real life professional singers. And these singers have made some incredible achievements in their lives and careers. And we talk all about the challenges and triumphs that come along with a career under the bright lights. And we also learn what being unstoppable looks like for them. If this sounds like it's for you, then stick around because we're going to jump right in. And I want to introduce my guest tonight. I'm super excited to have her on. It is Keri Larson. She's a session singer with a diverse list of credits in film, television, and albums. Keri has sung on albums for artists such as Harry Styles, Rosalía, Ariana Grande, Bette Midler, Barbra Streisand, Andra, Zedd, Kelly Clarkson, Josh Groban, Neil Diamond, Idina Menzel, Pentatonix, Mary J. Blige, Andrea Bocelli, and more. She has worked as an off-camera background vocalist on all 6 seasons of Glee on Fox and has lent her voice to most of the vocal competition shows for episodes on and off camera, including American Idol, The X Factor, and The Voice. Additionally, she has worked on films such as Mulan, Buzz Lightyear, You People, The Prom, and more. Keri has performed live with over 50 recording artists for local Grammy week events and beyond. She's the co-creator of the YouTube series, The Black and White Sessions, that features raw vocal performances from LA's finest session and touring vocalists. Keri is passionate about connecting singers and championing their potential to be seen and heard by music lovers everywhere. So let's bring her on. Hello, Keri.
Hi.
I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you. I'm excited. I'm ready to get into it.
Me too. Obviously your bio is just incredible and super impressive, but I love as we get down to the end where we talk about your passion for other singers, and that's definitely something you and I have in common. So I think this will be a really fun conversation about some of the projects that you're doing in the music community. So let's get started. So I'd love to see just where you're at today. What do you have going on in your singing life, and how's the year treating you so far?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think for a lot of singers, the waves of being busy and the waves of not being busy have definitely been more really up or really down post pandemic, right? Like there's just been this wave for some singers, the pandemic brought more work. And for other singers, it really went dormant for a while. And so it's been nice in 2023 to be back in the room with other singers and not partitioned off from each other. And you're shoulder to shoulder again. And there's like this collective energy in the room. And so that looks like a couple of film sessions that I actually don't think I'm allowed to say what they are at this point. But a couple of things like that have brought singers back together, which are probably coming out, probably 2024 is my guess. Maybe 2023 at the end of the year. A couple of TV shows. Oh, one I can say, The Righteous Gemstones on HBO has been one of my favorites for years, just because they're a Southern family. And so I had the opportunity to record remotely from home for this next season. So I'm excited for that to come out this year. Just, it's a really inappropriate show for children. So not the children, but
earmuffs, everybody.
But the Southern and the church stuff. Yeah, it was fun to get to play a little off camera role in that for this season.
Have fun. Hey, you know what? Something caught my attention that you mentioned before about singers, what we've experienced so far from the pandemic, just as far as like an influx of work after kind of coming back and then things just being a little imbalanced. I'm glad you mentioned that because I'll be announcing soon this year's Unstoppable Singer Summit coming up. And in general, the theme of this summit is always talking about singers making a living, a sustainable career, building multiple streams of income. But this year in particular, we're going to weigh heavy on talking about creating balance and boundaries and the self-care that it takes to create a sustainable career. I don't know if you're seeing this or not, but most of us experienced a complete halt in work. Then
Yes.
there was this complete like windfall of crazy, crazy, um, you know, uh, opportunities that came our way. And I think those two worlds crashing together has left a lot of us just completely overwhelmed and wondering how do I go back in time and do those things that I said I'd do during COVID, as far as like having more balance and a better pace in life? Because I'm seeing a lot of singers just completely cancel their entire week schedule or their month schedule just because they're just totally fatigued, mentally not ready for it, physically not ready for it. But, are you seeing that in your circles?
Yes, and it is real. And I think I would tend to lean to say that my friends that live more in the touring world, if you will,
Mhm.
that do live singing, are experiencing it more just because the general public is so hungry for these in-person events or
Yeah.
stadium tours or even just smaller club dates, whatever it is. There is, like you said, this influx of we want, we need, and the people on the
Mhm.
other side of it, they came out of this seclusion into run the marathon, and not
Yeah.
everybody was ready emotionally or vocally. Like the instrument wasn't ready to go back
Yeah.
to this extreme um d- type of singing and work. And just that's 10% of it when you're a traveling singer, right? Like 90% of it
Mhm.
is the travel
Right.
and sustaining that. And so, a lot of singers, I think they are experiencing more fatigue than they were used to, not because of age from the past three
Mhm.
years, but just truly from the effects of not being able to use their voice in the way that they were pre-pandemic. And so it's causing insecurities in new ways. And they're having to work
Mhm.
through that, right? And
Yeah.
and they're leaning on friends for support, and obviously vocal coaches, and using techniques to help work through it, but it still doesn't dismiss the fact that it's real and it's happening.
Mhm. Yeah. It really is, and it's such a life skill to develop, flexing that no muscle and knowing when to and when not to, because I think most of us as singers, we really live in that uh FOMO state where we feel like if we say no to
Yes.
any opportunity, we're never going to be hired again. We become
Yeah.
irrelevant in ways.
Yeah.
And I think we logically know that that's not true, but I think with where we're at, just as people now and everything we've experienced, we do need to be better about have that self awareness to create that space we need so that we can show up and give our all and be able to maintain a month long schedule of dates, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And it is. And the other
Yeah.
thing I would say about that is, the fear of the FOMO stuff and the fear of missing out. So many singers were uh really truly unemployed for such a long time that even though they feel fatigued right now, the fact that they were just home for so long, they're like, I'm stretched to the limit, but I'm not saying no, because they certainly
Yeah.
don't want to give up their position in whatever that particular job is
Yeah.
currently. And the hope
Mhm.
is they'll be able to come out on the other side of it, right? And that there'll be
Yeah.
balance and not damaged physically or emotionally, as they come
Mhm.
out on the other side of it. That's the hope.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
What a place to be. Well,
Mhm.
I'd love to step back in time and talk about where you got your start as a singer. What's your background? Where are you coming from, a musical family? How did you get your start?
Yeah. Well, I've got my people are from East Tennessee, so I have my Dolly Parton mug today in honor of
Awesome.
East Tennessee. So I'll take my
I
sip of
hear the
tea.
accent.
Mm, mhm.
I love
And
it.
my mom was just in town from Tennessee, so it's, you know, the more we get in, the more we talk, the more country I'm probably going to get.
Yeah.
Um, so all my family's from East Tennessee. There's musical people all throughout my family. That a lot of these people, distant family members, aunts, uncles, cousins, things of that nature, that have great voices or they play instruments, and most of them learned by ear. My dad played piano by ear. But no one, as far as I know, was formally trained in music. And so neither of my parents were super uh, academic, if you will, in the side of music, right? And
Mhm.
so I was the one. I came out singing, basically.
Mhm.
And they really didn't know what to do with me. I'm completely deaf in my right ear. I was born with
Wow.
a condition called microtia atresia.
Mhm.
And so it was very unusual that I was able to sing. That
Mhm.
really wasn't something that the doctors had really seen much from their patients who have microtia. Um, so that was, interesting in the sense that I never knew any different. So I was never
Right.
affected per se by the lack of hearing. And really, even in today's time, there really have only been a few instances where I can say, yeah, that was kind of a bummer. It would have been great to have two ears there in that
Mhm.
setting.
Yeah.
Um, but with that said, I had very supportive parents of my musical endeavors. And once I got to high school, I went to a high school in Gallatin, Tennessee, which is about 30 plus miles north of Nashville. And
Mhm.
so I was already near a very musical city, which was a benefit. But my high school was one of these high schools where for whatever reason, it's a melting pot of talent. Like the football players, the cheerleaders, the quirky kids, everybody could sing, play an instrument. It was like this weird thing. And I think that might still be the case there. It's just been this
Wow.
little melting pot for years and years. And our high school choral teacher, chorus teacher, his name was James Story. He's still one of my uh, biggest champions and cheerleaders, and really was just a true mentor to me through all of my formative and developmental years. And I was just very fortunate to be in a program that pushed us and built us up with our self confidence and taught us so much that it sort of propelled me into thinking, well, I can do this. I could do this
Mhm.
professionally instead of just thinking, oh, this was fun to do, in high school.
Yeah.
So we get to the end of high school, and I was, started meeting some songwriters in Nashville and finding my way around and trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Did I want to be an artist? Did I want to be a background singer? Do I want to write songs? It was just like this oasis of like, well, pick your pleasure and
Mhm.
what you want to do. And so I feel like it took a couple of years there, like into my 20s, to kind of get a sense of where am I going? What am I doing? And so I landed at a church actually down in Brentwood, Tennessee. And at that time, there was a singer, Tim Davis. He was going to that church. And
Mhm.
I had grown up in church, but not as a singer. And so I had sung my very first song on a stage as a soloist at a church on this particular weekend. And Tim heard me, and he was pretty connected within the Nashville scene at that time. And he approached me and he was like, "Who are you? Why don't I know who you are?" And he was so kind and so affirming. And then I didn't hear from him again for 6 months. And I just thought, well, that was nice. I'm glad he was so friendly.
Uh-huh.
But in that time, he had moved to California. So that, because I'm fast forwarding all of this story for you.
Mhm.
So at that point, I get a phone call saying, from a friend saying, "Hey, Tim Davis is trying to locate you. He wants you to audition for this Christian music band, and they're coming to Nashville to audition singers. And he wants you to audition, but you have to move to California." And so at that point, my job, I was working at a furniture store in downtown Nashville. And, it was the typical early, I was like, what was I, like 20 something? And I'm working at a furniture store, and I'm like, yes, I want to move to California. I'm
Heck
going to
yeah.
go audition. Yes. So I auditioned for this Christian band, and it was called Basics, and it was based out of Yorba Linda, California, Yorba Linda Friends Church, and it was a music group that had already been together for several years, had made a couple of records through the Gaither Music label.
Mhm.
So I'm like, all right, so I auditioned for this group. They pick me, they bring their tour bus in front of my house in Gallatin. My parents are a mess because I'm an only child. They
Oh
put
my
all of my
gosh.
belongings under the bus, literally in bins, and off I go to California.
Wow.
And that group toured for 3 years, mostly doing church ministry, concerts, things of that nature, and a few other things. And it was great. And within that group, I met my husband, my now husband. And so we were friends for that 3 years, and then we got married. And so I obviously stayed in California at that point,
Hmm.
which was really fun. But the full circle of that is thanks to that connection with Tim Davis. He introduced me to the session singing world, and he
Mm.
introduced me to people even beyond the session singing world, live singing, you name it. He was he was advancing in his career, since he had been in California longer than me. And so he was just very kind to kind of pull me along,
Hmm.
on his coattails, if you will. And it really just introduced me to the people who do the hiring of singers in many facets of the Los Angeles area. And that really was the door opener, into all of those credits that you listed. I still bring it back to, he pretty much introduced me to all the people that would introduce me to the other people who would
Yeah.
hire me for all of these credits, right?
Right.
And we all need somebody like a Tim Davis to help us. We all need one of those people to do that for us. So
Definitely.
that's the backstory. That's how we got here in California from small town Tennessee.
Yeah, I love that story. I'm always so fascinated to hear, and it's always the same that one thing, one connection leads to another, to another, to another, and these stories are always so beautiful to hear how they unfold, and come full circle like that.
Yeah.
Um, Now, obviously, in your bio, you do have some incredible credits with just iconic figures in music. Can you tell me one or two like kind of breakthrough opportunities that came through for you that just like blew your mind that you were going to be considered to be a part of it?
Yeah, I mean, there are a few. Well, first of all, I just love singers. I love singers. I just love being in a room with singers. So anytime any of these opportunities came about, I was never by myself, right? So I
Hmm.
have all these memories with lovely people. Um, let's see, there's a couple that come to mind right away. One, sometimes in the sessions singing world, you will show up in a room and you have no idea what you're singing or who you're singing for or what the project is. You just
Hmm.
get a call and you show up. And in one instance, the Harry Styles was for Sign of the Times, and this was like a big deal because it was his debut album coming out of One Direction. And of course, we show up at this studio. We're in the room. There's the group of us, I think 20 plus singers at that point, and we still don't really know what we're doing. And I think Edie Lehman Boddiker's name has been mentioned before, but she was the one who had hired the singers for this that day, and it was very exciting. And we love her, and her creative vision that she brings to a room is always excellent. So we knew it
Hmm.
was going to be a good day. And in walks Harry Styles, but his hair was all cut super short,
Oh my
and
gosh.
nobody knew yet, right? This was like top secret. He's been off on a boat writing all these songs, and he comes in and he's super excited about it, but it is on like the super, like, nobody's talking about this, right?
Hmm.
And so we're all just kind of like,
Oh
it's for
wow.
Harry Styles, but you're trying to play it cool. You're trying to be like, yep, professional singer, this is what we do, and people
No
like
big
you walk
deal.
in the room and we're cool. Nope, we were all dying inside, and anybody says they weren't is telling a lie. So, but he was so gracious and so thoughtful and so lovely.
Hmm.
And you want to sing better for people like that.
Yeah.
So it set up the day to be such a win. Like, we all left like, oh, it was just so great because we wanted to be great for him. And the material was so opposite of what we would have expected from him.
Hmm.
And Jeff Basker was his producer, and he was so great. And then the balance with Edie and the way they were all working together, and just the camaraderie there. It was one of those moments when you leave and you think, wow, I came from small town Tennessee, and today I got to do that. Now, if that is not a divine appointment,
Yeah.
coming from the church stage and being somebody who believes in Jesus, I was like, thank you, Lord, for this opportunity, for
Mm-hmm.
bringing me into a room like this, because I'll never forget it. I'll never
Yeah.
forget that moment. That one was definitely a highlight. The one with Bette Midler was funny because, in true fashion, most of the time the artists are not present, and that's why these are important, because they were.
Mm-hmm.
They had the time and could be there. And Bette Midler was so interesting because that project was with Mark Shaman, and that was a Tim Davis. He brought three of us in. So in those settings, these are really intimate. So when there's just three vocalists, each of us individually have to be confident enough to walk into that room and know that we're going to be able to hold down the fort for
Mm-hmm.
our part. And then because like in film scores or things that are more large group, gospel choir, whatever, you've got more wiggle room to be a little more wild, if you will, within your
Mm-hmm.
approach, or just you're creating a sound that's a large group sound. And in this
Mm-hmm.
scenario, with just three of us, there was something very specific that they were looking for. And they had been trying out singers for a while, incredible singers, like some of the best singers in the world had already been working on these songs. And it was just not the sound that they were looking for, which we can speak about that too, about singers, how they get in their head about that kind of stuff.
Right.
But in that situation, this worked. And we were but thankfully, we didn't know that we were like the third or fourth group of people who had tried this until after the fact, because I think the pressure would have been bigger, right?
Mm-hmm.
But she was there, and Mark Shaman was there, and he brought one of these, like, what do you call them, like the director's chairs. He brought it into the booth and slammed his chair down right in front of us, the three of us standing around the microphone. And I was like, I think Mark Shaman's going to sit here and stare at us directly in the face as we're singing each of these songs.
Great.
And sure enough, and here came Bette Midler with her folding chair, beep, 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 bopping on in, plopped her folding chair right next to him. And I'm like, okay, this is what we're going to do today. They're not going to sit in the control booth, and nope, they're going to be right here with us. And it was just incredible, right? Because
Yeah.
they cared that much about the music, and they cared that much about the approach, the sound, the tone, the placement. Every element of what we were doing and bringing to the table mattered, and we knew it,
Mm-hmm.
and we were one unit. And I think that at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day, if you do this for a living, you have to be that passionate about details. You have to
Mm-hmm.
care that much, right? About precision and things that, like, not all singers want to live in that space of technicality.
Yes.
But most of us who have been doing this for a long time and have continued to do it, the reason we've continued to do it is because we love the precision and the camaraderie and that cohesive sound that comes out of a project like that. It feeds us to
Mm-hmm.
want to keep going.
Yeah.
So those are two that are just really fun ones because the artists were there. I mean, there are others that the artists were there that were also lovely, but
Mm-hmm.
those are two that were really fun.
Yeah, that is so cool. I love those stories. I want to jump into the world of session singing. Before we do that, though, I want to ask just about the direction of choosing a lane to go as a singer, because it looked like coming out, leaving Tennessee, you had a lot of different directions you could have gone. You could have continued to go down the path of an original artist. You could have gone that way. You could have been a touring background singer or session singer. You could have chosen any one of those pathways. Did you find yourself at any crossroads where you had decided that, well, I'm letting go of original singing pursuit, and I'm going to go down the life of a working singer? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, there was a period of time right before I left Nashville, right before I got that phone call from Tim Davis. I had really been pounding the pavement, making demos to be in my mind, if you will, the next big pop star, right? Like I
Mhm.
had I wanted to be that big belty Celine Dion type recording artist. And I was really driven. And that was a good thing at the time. I was really driven and I was really pushing to work with the right producers and meet the right people and travel and go to New York and come to LA, all of these things. And I learned a lot at a young age, but dealing with rejection when you're 17 and 18 and 19 years old will take a toll,
Mhm.
because you're not really developed enough to really handle that kind of pressure unless you have people around you that can fully support that. And I think
Mhm.
that I did have a support system, but at the same time, it came to a point once I had really uh, got my faith in line with the vision for my future. There was
Mhm.
kind of that crossroads moment for me wasn't self induced, it was more faith induced, where I felt like it's time to lay this dream down. It's a good dream,
Mhm.
but it's
Mhm.
not the dream, right?
Right.
There's a bigger dream for my life. God has something over here for me that I can't see yet, but it's clearly better than this pounding pavement road that I've been on and knocking on doors and having them slammed in my face. And I got
Mhm.
very close. Like when I say close, like literally like presidents of labels in New York and things of that nature, and it just
Mhm.
wouldn't happen. And I had to be realistic in thinking these doors are closing for a reason. I'm not
Mhm.
not talented. That's not the issue, but it's got to be something. And I really just
Right.
think at the end of the day, it's just not where I was supposed to go. And
Mhm.
I could have continued pushing, pushing, pushing. And if there is no crack in a window or a door, it's time to look over here. Like, what is it then? So I didn't do it. I stopped singing altogether, actually, for about 4 or 5 months during that
Mhm.
period, trying to figure out, well, if it's not that, what is it? And I really did just lay it down, lay it all down and say, okay, Lord, pick it up. What are you going to do? And that's when I got
Yeah.
that phone call. Right.
Wow.
And then and so I think for a lot of singers, everybody's journey is different. People have different faith backgrounds, and I understand that people get to their journeys in different ways. That's just my way. That was the way
Mhm.
that it was working out for me, and I feel like I'm so grateful that that happened because I wouldn't have met
Mhm.
my husband.
Mhm.
It's a domino. It My whole trajectory of my life changed in that moment to go away
Yeah.
from this artistry, which I still love, and I love working with artists and people who are creatives in that way, and the doors have opened for them. I love the idea of artistry. I've just once my focus changed, I really did put that to bed as
Mhm.
from an artistry standpoint.
Right. Right.
And I fell in love with singing background vocals for other people, and the creative process that goes into that has been
Mhm.
very rewarding. And I, to this day, love it, and I'm beyond grateful that I've been able to do that. You don't feel more
Mhm.
alive than when you're doing what you love to do, right?
Right. Right. Yeah, that's so true. I'm glad that you share that because I think most of us see singers as they're growing up, that dream is always of, stardom, being the front person, being, having that original career, because that's really all we see. That's all we see in the media. That's
Hmm.
we're not aware of the other opportunities in this business until you start getting more involved. And I think it's very hard for young singers to wrap their head around the idea that you could possibly let that dream go and still be completely fulfilled and satisfied in the career path that you choose beyond being a original recording artist. But everybody that I talk to on this platform that have gone into the session world, or touring background vocalists, or even having a live performance career in like just the corporate space, are so happy with what they do and wouldn't change a thing. But
Right.
the pursuit of the original career is great, and I think it gives you a lot of perspective on you know really what it is that you want
Yeah,
out of your career. Yeah.
that's right. That is
Yeah.
right.
So back at the session singing world, it's really it really seems like it is a tight circle to get into. And nowadays it seems like there are a lot more opportunities with the emergence of online platforms where people can, post for work and work from home. Everybody seems to be kind of set up now after COVID. Everybody got their home recording studios done, but still, for major film projects, Disney, and things of that nature, it seems like there's a tight knit circle to get into. What are your thoughts on breaking into that business?
Well, I will say this. We live in the area of Los Angeles, which is very unique in the sense that there are a lot more opportunities for uh, recording sessions and session singing in a varied capacity, meaning, with the film scores and television shows, and that's on camera, off camera, albums. And some of these things happen in New York, Atlanta, Nashville, I mean, even Florida now. These are places where these are kind of the hubs for singers. So for anybody, living in Kansas, y'all gonna have to find your way to one of these cities if you want to do
Yeah.
this. And when you get here, the things that I would say if you are not connected. Now, you have to remember, like I said, I met somebody, Tim Davis, who had found his way into the world of session singing, and he held my hand and brought me in. And I do not take it for granted. And I know that for singers that are doing this full time, a lot of them had a friend who held a hand, right, and brought them
Mhm.
in. So having a connection to someone that's already in that tight knit circle, if you will, the circle is bigger than it used to be. And it's lovely. It's lovely having more diversity, and I think there are a lot of people that should be probably applauded for their efforts to grow the singing community in Los Angeles, because I can only really speak to that particular city. But the
Mhm.
diversity is definitely growing, and there definitely is. You have a wealth of people in varying age ranges and skill set that are within that tight knit circle. So there is room for growth. There's always
Mhm.
room for new people. Um, but I always tell singers that come to town, you have to decide, what is your skill set? What are you best at? Right? Like, are
Mm.
you best? Like, do you live your best life when you're on stage? Because if
Mm.
that's you, like if that's where you live and you thrive there, then you need to be doing live shows, be it at the club
Mhm.
level or finding your way into meeting musical directors who hire singers for world tours. Like, I never found my connections and my niche in the world of the people who hire touring singers. So I never really ended up on big world tour stages. And that's okay. That's just not where I ended up. But there is a niche for that, and some of those people have crossover, and they're able to continue to work in the session side of this as well because they have the versatility to do that. But with most
Mhm.
singers that are new, you really do only get one shot. And I hate to say that because I've seen really great singers fall through the cracks because that first impression is everything, and it is very hard to make a second impression. Very,
Yeah.
because many of these people, and I know you've talked about vocal contractors with other people and what that means, but these people really are the people who are putting together, they are molding a sound. That is what they are doing. At the first and foremost, or at least it should be the foremost, is creating a sound, a cohesive sound within a session. If, for instance, like you said, the online platforms, right? And a lot of people have been able to be recognized and gain notoriety and popularity through their online presence. A lot of these
Mhm.
singers, just in general, they are incredible soloists, like bring me to tears type soloist. But if
Yeah.
you bring all of those people into a room When you're looking for a cohesive sound, this melt together, we lean in together, you bring humility and vulnerability to the room. But over
Mhm,
here,
mhm,
you've got this group of people who are incredible soloists. You're going to have a competing sound, not a
mhm.
cohesive sound. And at the end of the
Right.
day, in session singing, your goal is this cohesive sound, right? Not
Mhm.
this competing sound. And I think it's confusing for singers that come to town and feel like they get the door shut. And it could be for varying reasons. It could be just a real bummer that
Mhm.
they didn't get in when they finally met somebody and they tried and they put their name out there and put forward like these vocal reels. Vocal reels are really important. Vocal snippets of showcasing yourself in 30-second clips that showcase your strengths, the types of songs that you
Mhm.
sing, the types of songs you sing well. Like it gives the people who hire singers an idea of where you fit into the big circle or the little circle, depending on what it is
Mhm.
you're trying to do, right?
Yeah.
So I would say there is room for new, but I also would say there is something to be said for longevity and loyalty. And I think that that comes into play too. And I think that even for singers who have been in town, I mean, I've been here over 20 years. So I feel like 20 years is enough time to really see it all. It's
Mhm.
enough time to have been in a room in every different scenario. I have been fortunate to have versatility, so it has allowed me to be in a lot of different spaces with a lot of different voices and different personalities. And it really does become this one big, whoa, it's like an emotional, it's mental, it's the relationship building, but at the end of the day, I think humble singers all day long that are confident, but yet they walk into a room and they know that they're there to create something as a group and not
Mhm.
stand out as an individual. Those are the people that get invited back into the rooms. That I can say
Yeah.
with certainty for probably, I would say that I'm speaking for most people that hire singers in LA.
Yeah, I love that you've called that out. That's so important. And talking about just the competing sound and the difference between someone who really understands the art of ensemble singing versus being a soloist. I'm curious to know for the new singer who maybe has that one shot that you mentioned earlier, what are some of the characteristics, qualities, or even skill sets that you think are going to give that singer an advantage to be called back? What are those things that
Yeah,
director looks for?
right. Well, the good news is you don't have to have all the skills in
Mhm,
order to be an asset to the community. Like I said, being in a situation where I have had the ability to be in rooms with complete versatility, I
mhm,
would say this. So, for the singers who are extremely good readers, right? People who can just walk into a room and read down a chart very quickly, those people really need to have a handle on what do they bring to the table vocally? What is their range? Do they sing in tune? Now that's across the board. Singing in tune is baseline. If you can't sing in tune, this is live singing, maybe not studio singing. Because again, like I
mhm,
said, that precision that you're looking for and the accuracy matters. So singing in tune is, I think, a prerequisite to get into
mhm.
this, right?
Right.
Tone, like how do you blend? What is your blend like? Are you able to manipulate your placement in order to create maybe a more childlike sound for this, maybe a more pop sound here? Are we going to go super choral here? Is this like legit film score? Who are those people? And the interesting thing about that is there are people in that space that are the most incredible classically trained singers, and some of them play well over here in this other section of like more fun and like cartoons or things of that nature, animated features, and they do well there too. Some don't. They just live over here because this is what they do and they do it so well, and they don't have time to be over here doing this other stuff, right? They're off doing
Mhm,
LA Master Chorale, things of that nature. There are people that can go both, right? Same with on the flip side of that. the singers who come from a place of maybe not reading music, but they are more intuitive singers. They sing from a place of being able to recall a melody very quickly. So you're in a room and somebody says, go, ah, 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 and you can go, ah, 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 right back very quickly in tune and give them what they're looking for. That stresses some people out that live over here, that live in I read music world, right? Like they really struggle here because they have found that this side over here works really well, but this over here is stressful. Now, the beauty in that is there is a need for both, and there are people in that circle that can fly in both. They can do both. And some people over here can get invited into these spaces, right? But usually if that's the case, you glean or you lean into the people who are a level 10, you know, from a scale of 1 to 10, a level 10 reader. Reading is always a great thing. It's a great skill to have if you want to be a session singer, for sure. To be able to do all the kinds of sessions. There are times I will say that I think it's harder, just like it would be hard for people who don't read music to walk into one of these very what I call classy sessions, these classy film sessions on these beautiful sound stages. And it's stunning and it's beautiful and it's classy and it's regal. And you feel regal doing it, and it's very legit. And some of these people, they know the intricacies of every note and every beat and every time signature, and it's incredible to me. I because I am not that versed in that world to that level, and so I just melt into them. Right? I'm just like, I'm happy to be here, and I hear it, and I can do this. But leaning into these people who understand and can break down music that way is incredible. However, these people sometimes have a harder time coming over here because that intuitive piece, they want to be able to read it. They want to see it. They want to break it down from a scientific standpoint. But what happens is you lose that that emotive, right? That it comes off very clean and beautiful when what's being asked for here is really coming from a place of like passion. It's almost like gut-wrenching, intuitive type singing that you can't get by reading it off a page. You just have to feel it. And if you start it over here, it's a dance to get over here. So I say that to say that there are singers, you know, that are needed in both capacities for the projects that are being hired for. And the people that hire singers, you know, it's a dance for them too, because they have all these groups of singers and they have to be able to place the right voices in the room with those specific skill sets based on what the job is asking of them and what's being required, or the sound. Because what if, like, for instance, Glee is a great example. Glee were predominantly not reading sessions. They were intuitive sessions. They were cohesive sound. And once that sound was found, you don't lose it. Like, we got to hold on to this sound, right? Yeah. And so it was, it's one of those situations where it wasn't so much about the skill set of reading as it was about creating this machine and this sound that could carry the show, and it worked, right? It worked. But yet, you know, some of the most beautiful film scores would have not gone well if they didn't have people doing those sessions that were capable of handling that level of musicality that matches the composer, right? In the room. And so it really comes down to, for a new singer, what are your skill sets, right? Like, what do you do well? Not what you can kind of do. What do you do well? And put that foot forward. Because if you have a real cool tone that is warm and you can bring that to the table, you know, all day long, people are going to be like, yes, we love that. But tone and presence, you know, and the confidence that comes alongside of that, you know, and having that humble spirit, the ability to walk into a room and not feel like you walked in knowing it all, you know, that's those are key and important. People like working with singers like that are willing, to
Mhm.
learn and grow at all times.
Yeah. That is so fascinating and such a great lesson. So many things that can be, taken out of that for a new singer. And just learning, having that self awareness to identify early on what your real strengths are and not trying to force yourself down a lane that isn't for you. Of course, we all want to grow. We want to stretch ourselves as singers and step outside of our comfort zone. But when you can really identify those places that are just the sweet spot for you, that oftentimes just almost comes naturally to you, or that you can really just take an accelerated approach to, if you're or have that more intuitive sense about singing. It makes me think of this really awesome Eric Whitaker TikTok video I saw recently, where he is talking about the idea of comparison and how he found himself in I guess a competition of four composers, and when it came down to it, when being in the room with these four, he felt very intimidated, very inferior, just because of the complex nature of the things that they had written, and just felt like he was completely out of pace or out of place. But then it came down to the simplicity of what he had submitted. Overall was the most singable piece of music for the singers that were involved, and that they absolutely loved it. And he says in this video that the biggest lesson for him is that he will never again compare himself to what anybody else is doing around them, but just rather run your own race and really just take notice of those things that are your strengths, and know what it is that you can have to be that is every around you. Yeah, definitely an important lesson for us. And you have been in the company of some really countless, incredible session singers. And now you are the co-creator of a, a YouTube series. I'm looking for the title here. The Black and White Sessions. Tell me about that.
Yeah, the black and white sessions. Actually, the idea for that came out of working on Glee, because so many of the singers that were working on Glee were guide vocalists, and that meant that they would go in and sing the leads uh, for the actors that would be singing their own songs on the show. They would do the demos for them to learn the arrangement, because all of the songs were cut down, or the famous mashups. It would marry two songs, and so for them to really understand what the format of the song was going to be, and what the arrangement was, some of the singers that worked on Glee behind the scenes would sing these demos, and they were so fantastic. Like, they were just incredible. And some of the singers I had known for a long time going into that project. And then there were singers that I met that were new during that time. And I was just so overwhelmed with how talented they all were. And I'm like, this is such a bummer, because all of these session singers in general, they're always behind the scenes, and nobody ever gets to hear them singing a song that they love. Like, what made them fall in love with singing? And
Mhm.
too, because in the session singing world, we do become like robots in a lot of scenarios, where you're just literally boom, 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 boom. You're given a song, you're given a task, and you do it. And so
Mhm.
it doesn't allow you to be yourself per se as a singer. How would you sing if you were singing for enjoyment, or for the love of singing and the love of music and song? So we started the black and white sessions. And I just started by inviting my friends. I started by inviting friends and people who I'd worked with a long time, and they would come into the studio. They picked a song. Tony Guerrero was the co-creator, and he would play it live with them singing in one take. And then we would. It was very, very minor edits, if any at all. Most of them were raw vocal performances, and then we would just put some effects and put it out there for people to hear. And
Mhm.
it really was such an incredible experience that We are toying with the idea of a season 7 this year. So we did 6 seasons. We are toying with the idea of
Wow.
yeah, we're toying with season 7 with 7 featured vocalists this year. And I'm really excited about it. And I'm hopeful that it's all going to come together because it was empowering for singers. But I will say this, that it was very interesting being in a room with all of these different singers and knowing all of their personalities because everybody is so different. You're introverts, you're extroverts, and people who love the stage and people who loathe the stage and love the booth, right?
Mhm.
And just the vulnerability and bravery to step into a room when you mostly work in a situation where you just chop, cut, piece
Mm.
up a whole song in the studio, right?
Yeah.
And you're singing it live, start to finish. It's a performance. It's you. It's doing what you love. And everybody had a moment. Every single singer had a moment of vulnerability where they would come to me and say, I don't know. I don't know if I want to do this. I'm excited,
Yeah.
but I don't know if I want to do this. Like, I'm
Yeah.
kind of nervous. I want to watch it when you're done. Like, and you realize, and some of these singers literally like are just the most incredible singers, in the plant on the planet. And I'm like, yeah, this is just a reminder. We are our own worst critics. We will tear ourselves down while everybody else has us on a mountaintop. And
Yeah.
it did something to me in the way it changed me in seasons where maybe I'm not getting called as much, where, I'm kind of on pause, if you will, and other people are
Mhm.
working. It has allowed me to be so thankful that they're working, right? And that the community is still thriving and growing. And then all of a sudden I get a call for something just incredible with the most incredible people. And I think this is how it goes. This is the ebb and flow. And for every person that looks like they're out there super busy, they're tearing themselves up at home. And it's just you want to be able to get to a mental space. And I think that also creates longevity in this industry is if you can find peace that you are good enough. You're good
Yeah.
enough for every opportunity that comes your way. You are good enough. You were called because you deserve to be there. And some people that you might be forgotten, you might not get included on everything. And I said this years ago at an event I was speaking at for Gerald White for his sight singing class. I said, I am not immune to the days of laying in my bed, crying my eyes out because I saw a photo on Instagram of all of my friends at a session and I wasn't invited. And I said, that's it.
Mm.
This is the end. My
I'm
career is
done.
over. I'm done. That was it. It was a good run. I guess I should, go find start looking for a job. Like literally would send myself into oblivion and that was years ago, but it's real and it happens even today with singers. And
Mhm.
no one is immune to those feelings. They're just not. And so I encourage
Mhm.
singers that are watching this, be it in the live space, the corporate space, because that's competitive. All of
Mhm.
these arenas are competitive. The touring singers, it's a competitive world. But coming into it, not trying to tear people down, but build people up will
Yeah.
100% just take you the long road of success and longevity, I think, versus the short and quick way and you'd fall off a cliff because you can't sustain it. It's too hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Keri, those are such important words. I'm so glad that you said that. And in this, day and age of social media and seeing on a daily basis what other people are doing, you really got to learn to guard your heart, when you're scrolling and watching. But it's so important what you said is that if you're called, you are meant to be there. That's you're worthy of it. And just because you see some singers on other opportunities, that was their opportunity, not yours. The ones that are yours are going to come to you. And just keep your head down, keep running the race, and celebrate the victories of the other singers around you. And that kind of energy, that kind of flow that you carry on in your life are the things that will help you build momentum, help keep you in those circles, help keep you in a good, mind space for it. But thank you very much for sharing that. This
Yeah.
has been a
And
great conversation.
and
Yeah.
yes, you should go to the black and white sessions. It's just the black and white sessions on
Hmm.
YouTube. There are 6 seasons of literally the most incredible vocal performances from a lot of singers you have never heard of, but they
Hmm.
are truly gems. And it's just, I've had friends say, "Oh, I just create a playlist and I just listen to it around my house or whatever it is, you
Hmm.
know."
Hmm.
And it's lovely. It's such an incredible series. And like I said, I am such a champion for great singers, and these people work hard and they're really good at what they do. So
Hmm.
I'm only plugging it because we haven't done one since the pandemic. We were poised to do one in 2020, and of course it got canceled. So I'm still just really proud of that project.
Yeah, that's so great. Yeah, definitely. Everybody, please check out the black and white sessions on YouTube. I went ahead and posted your social media links too, so everyone can go and check you out on social media. I've loved our conversation so much. I know that there's so much more that we could talk about, but before we wrap things up, I want to tell everyone about an important event that you have coming up. You've got a really fun show that's coming up in June 24th at the Catalina Jazz Club in LA. You are going to be supporting Allison Porter, the winner of The Voice a few seasons ago, as a background vocalist. Tell us about that show.
Yeah, I call Allison a unicorn. She is a unicorn vocalist, and anybody who
Oh
watched The
yeah.
Voice already knows this about her.
Hmm.
But I've been
Hmm.
singing with her since 2019, I think, and doing live shows with her. And I've never done a show with her that is the same. They're all different, and she's just a firecracker on stage, and she puts on such an intimate show no matter the size of the room. And she
Hmm.
brings everybody in with her. And if you're a singer type, that you love those type of singers that are just so versatile in their performances and the way that they use their voice and can manipulate it for the different styles of songs they're singing, this is the show you want to come to, because she loves harmonies and so we get to be a part of this journey with her, and it's going to be a great show. So I hope people that are local will be able to come out.
Yeah, I'd love to check that show out. I absolutely love Allison. I watched her entire season, and the whole time thinking, if she doesn't win, I'm gonna lose my mind. And
Right.
years later, after her season, I never think to go and listen to any of the recordings from The Voice, but hers I do.
Yeah.
She just had such great songs. She did some Janis Joplin, and just, oh my God,
Yeah.
she is a blow your hair back kind of singer, and I really
Yeah.
love her. I'd love to check out that show.
Yes.
So I'm sure if everybody follows your Instagram or Facebook, we'll probably see more details on that coming up. But
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, but
Yeah,
thank you
that'll
so
be a
much,
fun
Keri.
one.
Yeah.
Yes, you're welcome.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. This has been great. I hope our paths will cross in person soon, but I love that our missions align for singers, and look forward to just kind of sharing this community and championing singers as much as we can together. And I'd love to involve you
Yeah.
in the summit coming up this year so we can talk offline about that. But thank you so much for sharing your evening with us, and your expertise and experience. It's been a great chat. Um, and thank you to everybody who joined us live tonight. Thanks for jumping into the chat. I'm sorry I didn't call out. Sarah Stallman was with us, and she said that she loves your work, and thanks for the insight. But I'll let you have
That's
your
awesome.
evening back and say goodnight to everybody.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun. I had a great time. Glad we could do some fun chatting about singing.
Yes, me too. All right. Good night, everybody.
All right.